Okay, so everybody, we're here with Venus, and we're going to talk about Venus retrograde. Now, Venus already went retrograde on Saturday, but what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the actual mechanics of it, what happens. It's fascinating, and I'm sure you're going to agree. Stay with me to the end because I'm going to tell you exactly what it's going to mean to you for this particular cycle, but let's get into the basics of the Venus retrograde. You can see I have a fascinating image here. It comes from my museum trip that I took on Friday of the last day of February, because this painting was actually on loan from London, and never seen it in person before, so this was a fantastic chance to see it. It is Venus Sleeping, Venus in Dormait. It's done by a Belgian artist named Paul Deval, and it was done in 1944. It's from the Surrealism School, as you can probably tell, and of course it was done during wartime, so the Venus Sleeping just is absent. So let's talk about this, because this is not an absent period for Venus. This is actually going to be a very active period, and what we're going to be experiencing is going to be very, very much to the benefit of some and not to the detriment. It depends. This is why you listen to Daily AstroCat. We're going to tell you exactly what you can expect and what you can be sensing from this, right? It doesn't tell you what the future will be, but it tells you what to look out for and how to best take advantage of the situations and the aspects and everything that are being presented to us. Sounds good, right? Let's go. So Venus retrograde, I have this little graphic here. Let's talk about this, because what I really want to talk about is I want to talk about why Venus's orbit and the Earth's orbit are so special and what they do and how they interact. Now, Venus actually takes 224 days to revolve around the sun. It's actually 224.7, okay? And the Earth takes 36.25 days, okay? So basically, there's 365 days in a year. We add that quarter because every 4 years we leap ahead a year, correct? So far, you got it, right? Now, there's a ratio between these two orbits, and the ratio that exists is actually an 8-year cycle, okay? But so think of it this way. I'll show it to you mathematically in a minute, okay? But really what happens is that every 8 years, Venus goes through 10, I'll show you this too, 10 conjunctions with the sun. And these occur at the same points between the Earth and the Sun. So when Venus is conjunct with the Sun, she's either closer to Earth or she's further away from Earth. Both Mercury and Venus do this because they're inner planets. They have these kind of conjunctions. The one that puts the Sun, Venus between the Sun and Earth, is called an inferior conjunction. The one where Venus is outside and it's the Sun, it's Earth, Sun, and then Venus, because Venus is conjunct with the Sun on the opposite side, that's called a superior conjunction. Now, if we go over here, there's this regularity happens so regular that what we're really looking at is we're looking at every 8 years. That only varies by 2 degrees, roughly. So say, for example, this year we're in Venus's retrograde at 7 degrees Aries. Last year, the last time it happened, which was in 2017, it occurred right around 9 degrees, okay? It might have been almost 10, because there's a little bit of overlap there. So it doesn't move very much over 8 years. As a matter of fact, this current retrograde cycle with Venus in Aries, and I'll show you what the chart looks like, because there's a graphic that goes with it, actually began in 1905. And if you think about it, that's the same year that Einstein published his Annulus Mirabilis. Right. Laid the foundations for his theory of relativity. E equals mc squared. All of that stuff. 1905, right with a Venus retrograde. He published 4 articles that year. Don't know when they were conceived or anything like that. But we know that Einstein's birthday is in February, so we know that probably had a good idea, right? These things tend to happen around your birthday when Venus is retrograde. We'll get into that too. Now, Venus is closer to the sun than the Earth is, okay? So basically, I just explained this whole thing, right? Now, look, we talked about the inferior conjunction, superior conjunction. I have it all written down here. You can look at it for a minute, okay? Once Venus hits this the inferior conjunction that it did on this day, or any given day, whenever it happens to fall in that inferior conjunction, it goes from being an evening star, because we saw it high up in the sky all January and February for this year. We saw it all that time, right? It was way up in the sky. The maximum elongation, I believe, was at some point towards the end of January. And that's the point where it's furthest away from the sun. That's what the maximum elongation refers to. Love those terms, right? Astronomical and astrological terms, they're all fascinating. So once it's out, now it goes from being Venus Hesperus, which is what the evening star is called, to Venus Lucifer. You start to begin to see it in the morning. It has two different phases. They call it either Phosphorus or Lucifer. Or maybe it's, I'd have to look that up. One of those two are interchangeable. Either Phosphorus and Lucifer. I believe it's Phosphorus and Lucifer that's interchangeable. And then Hesperus, the evening star and the morning star. Okay, now, Venus, yeah, that's a really good thing, right? Now, I did post something silly on TikTok, and I wanted to mention it to you because it was kind of funny. It was actually one of the first times that I've ever done something to try to address sun signs, which if you follow me and you know, I don't really talk that much about them. I talk about moon signs, I talk about transits. I don't really talk about natal astrology that much, nor do I really connect it for you in ways that other folks do. But what I said was, I posted it earlier, so it's happening soon. Love troubles for Libra, Capricorn, Cancer, and unfortunately Taurus. Now, why is that? Well, that's because Venus rules Libra and Taurus. So anytime it's like your ruling planet, right? Your ruling planet is Venus. If it happen to be the sun sign of that, or you're an ascendant of that, or of that particular sign, either Libra or Taurus, Venus is going backwards. She's going back and redoing some things, right? What does she like to redo? What is she redoing? What do we have to pay attention to when Venus is retrograde? Well, shall I get through what I wrote in TikTok first? Okay, unfortunately, Taurus. You may get it back soon enough, though. Smile. Aries, that's you Aries out there. Smile in the knowledge that bridge is burned down, and it was your choice. Okay, because Venus went retrograde in your own sign. Not necessarily relationship troubles. However, you may decide that you're just crossed the Rubicon, baby. Ilia acti. Yeah. Yeah, you know the saying, the die is cast, right? Now, Ilia acta est. Yes. Now, anyone who follows this channel knows that I practice modern Western astrology, and I mostly track the moon. Right. That's right. Now, I got to tell you something. I track the moon, and I don't really pay attention to the sun signs because, as a sun sign Aries, I have to absolutely be doing my own thing. Those bridges, right? Never burn them down, though. That's not a good thing. Leave them open. Leave them open. No scorched earth from this guy. All right. So, Venus, Venus, she may rule love and relationships, which is where that was at. That TikTok thing was headed, because people love love and relationship stuff. Popular astrology, right? That's the basis for the TikTok blurb. But there's another reason for the power of this retrograde. And let's really get into it right now. Because what I want to talk about is I want to talk about the actual math and the beauty of this dance, all right? The ratio between the Earth and Venus's orbit, that 224.7 days and 365 and 0.25 days, is 1.625. Now, there's something, if you're familiar with the golden ratio, it was all throughout ancient times, and it's basically the arches are formed on it, the nautilus shell, you've probably seen that, Fibonacci sequences, things like that are all based on this ratio of 1.62. Now, 1.62 is the golden ratio. Now, the Venus orbit in Earth is 1.625. Whoa, is this an amazing coincidence? Or what? Or is there something more? Is there something more? That's what I'd like to think. The ancients were able to track this. They tracked Venus. They were very good at it, adept at it. The Chaldeans, the Babylonians, the Mesopotamians, all those cultures, they were able to track it. And the star of Inanna, or Ishtar, which Venus was called in Mesopotamia, was an 8-pointed star. And it was associated with those goddesses. And it seems to capture that 8-year cycle. Very interesting, right? Rather faithfully, even. They knew about the 2-degree shift as well. So they knew that it would be in the same spots. It would be recurring. I'm going to show you that graphic in a second. There's also a 5-pointed star that's called the pentagram of Venus. That's extra fascinating. There's 2 of those pentagrams in the Venus chart. And I'm going to show you that next, right? Because that's where the 5 points, because on 8 years, there's 10 conjunctions, 5 inferior, 5 superior, a 5-pointed star, all happening at irregular intervals, right? It's just about perfect. Now, let's talk about this. Let's show this, okay? Because what I really want to talk about is I want to talk about where we're at, where we've been. If you look on my chart right here, you're going to see it, that I started it with 2023. 2023, there was an inferior conjunction with Leo, okay? So that's where this chart is going to begin. Now, when we go from that Leo point, what happened was that 2023, it spun out to 2024, which is in Gemini. So it spins this way, and it comes around, and we hit Gemini here. Now, that was in 2024. That was the last, that was a superior conjunction. Now, from that superior conjunction, what happens is that we went from 2024 all the way up until now, through September, December, all the way to December, January, where we started seeing Venus very high in the sky, right? And we brought it right down to this point right here, where we had that parade of planets on the 28th, with Venus and Saturn being at the absolute lowest where they're at, right? Because Venus was just dipping right down. We had Saturn and Mercury, right? So Saturn, Mercury, Venus, everybody on the line, all the planets, most of the planets. We can't see Pluto, so not even with a telescope, but you could even pick out the other ones with a telescope. And we come to this point in here with the inferior conjunction in 2025. Now, if you look, I've got 5 points here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they all have different dates associated with them, because this is an 8-year cycle. It's from 2022 to 2030. So 8 years. That's going to show you 10 points on this outer and inner wheel, because the sun is actually going around the middle of it, because that would be the conjunction between the Earth, the sun being either Venus being between the Earth and sun, or the sun being between Earth and Venus. That's the superior conjunction. Now, in 2026, you're going to see when the Venus leaves, she becomes a morning star, right? Because she's morning star up until this point. Now she's going to be rising in the morning and going out and out and out until she gets to her maximum elongation on that side, and then comes into a superior conjunction here in 2026. Now, in 2026, she'll begin that whole process anew and then come into, it looks like Scorpio in 2026. So we're going to be spiraling right into Scorpio, because there's certain points in the orbit where it goes really fast. There's certain points in the orbit where it goes slower. So with that being said, and we know that by looking at this, look at the beautiful pattern that this forms. This is what the Rosetta Venus looks like. It looks rather arabesque, doesn't it? These mandalas and everything like that have derived from this pattern, this geometric pattern, this wonderful pattern that has nature at its very core. This is the relationship between Venus and the Earth. And then it's expressed right here through this basic pattern. I even used that as a logo for the music name because I was so impressed by it when I saw it. I was just like, whoa, nobody uses it. I'm going to use that. That's amazing. So anyway, Venus retrograde. Now let's talk about Venus retrograde. We've already touched on it a little bit on all my dailies, but Venus retrograde affects Taurus and Libra. We already said that. Venus is the goddess of love. So, relationships, that's a Libra thing, right? It's also a Taurus thing. Relationships are very important to Taurus. Marriage, contracts, everything like that. Yeah, that's a Libra thing. Charm, grace, the good life, all those things. All in question, kind of, right? Because Venus is retrograde. We also have money and creativity. Those two things are big Taurus things. And Taurus things seem to take front and center. Those bulls, you can't deny them. They just stand right up and they're like, hey, I'm here. I'm to be counted. Now, that's what's going on, right? So you get those are the Taurus things. And they need to be revised. Now, planets in your chart that are between the points of, say, where Venus is going to go retrograde. So I believe I wrote that in there, and I didn't write it in there, right? So it's 7 degrees, and it's also 27. It might even be as far as back as 17. It's almost 17. So 17 degrees in the Pisces or 7 degrees in Aries. Between those 2 points, if you have any planets that are in there, if you know your natal chart, it's easy to get one. You can get one online, right? AstroSeek, astro-seek.com is a good source of one. Or astro.com, which is the Astrodienst, which is the European version of, they're both European, so there you go. But look, here's what I wrote, okay? Now, I did write something, but what I want to really focus on? This particular Venus retrograde that we're in right now, I want to talk about that because now I've spoken a little bit about retrogrades in general and what this looks like and what it's going to look like moving forward and what it's looked like since 1905. Believe it or not, that chart hasn't really changed since 1905. Just roll the dates back. Roll it back to 8 years. Go from Annalus Mirabilis all the way up till present times. Now, it's potent. It's an auspicious one. And it's particularly auspicious for me. Last week, I gave a rather cheeky preview to this, and I kind of said, who doesn't have a few regrets? Especially where relationships are concerned. This retrograde is where we can review our latest interpersonal interactions with an eye towards making things a little bit better. Relationship advice, right? But it also refers to your creative projects, and there is a Mars component in here. You knew I wasn't going to be able to get through this without mentioning Mars, right? It's going to play a very important part in this. Now, here's where I got really cheeky, though. Maybe the dominatrix you met doesn't want to go to Mardi Gras with you after all. Perhaps the whole idea is for you to go crawling back. Funny, right? I try to be cheeky. I try to be funny. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Seriously, though, this is where we review our Taurus and Libra things. The good life, partnerships, and some legal things are also going to be under review, as they say. Let's take a look at the chart for this Venus going retrograde. It occurred on the 1st, which is Saturday at 7:46 in the evening. Here on the East Coast, it was just as the Venus was setting, just as the sun was going down. Mercury, Mars, everybody's already there. Oh, yeah, they're all there, right? Venus is just going retrograde because she's not quite close to the sun. She didn't dip down to the horizon. I was talking about that earlier, and it's not quite at that point because it's the inferior conjunction. So what's happening, though, what we are doing is it's going to come back and it's got to get conjunct with the sun. It just reaches that point. It goes bink, bonk, bunk, bunk, bink, right? Now, let's think about this because what's going to really be happening is that as Venus comes back and she gets conjunct with that sun, she starts taking that that whoopty, right? She's slowing down. She's stopped. She's done, right? It's done. That race is done. The sun's going to pass right by her, and that's when she's going to go, boom, go right back. Okay? The retrograde slows down when the Earth is passing by her. Remember, it's not Venus stops in her tracks and goes. It's just the Earth begins catching up to Venus faster than Venus is moving, because they're on the same side now, right? They're approaching each other. So Venus does not appear to be moving. And so because Venus appears to be moving, that's how the retrograde occurs. Now, when the Earth finally reaches Venus, right, we're going to be going past it, right? That's basically the point where we're at right now when it goes retrograde. The Earth passes Venus. Then the sun catches up to her, and that's when we go whoop, and that we whip right around. And that's when that retrograde actually, it starts now, but that's when that inferior conjunction forms. So it's not when the retrograde starts, but it's when that conjunction is formed with the sun. The Earth is just the point of view. That's our perspective. Now, let's get through this part. Venus goes retrograde, and she's going to return to Pisces. And when she returns to Pisces, she's going to be trine Mars. Oh, yeah, happy time, right? This is what she wants. That's what Mars needs. It's going to be this watery jolt of energy. And you can see when she goes all the way back, it's actually 24 degrees. I said 17. No, it's 24. So that means that Mars on that is the 12th of April, right? By the 12th of April, Venus reaches 24 degrees, 37 minutes, and she starts moving forward again. Mars is going to be at 27 minutes. Yep, 27 minutes. So the orb will bring them trine, but they won't be perfected, right? That won't be a perfected trine because Venus, did she actually pass Mars there? No, she doesn't. So Mars is already, Venus will be approaching it again. Okay, so yeah, once, twice, thrice. Ooh, we're going to be able to visit this again, right? Yeah, this is going to be very interesting. I like that. See, I get caught up in doing graphics and stuff like that, and then when I start writing this stuff down, I'm just trying to get all the facts and everything. By looking at the charts, now this is a great lesson for everybody out there that's learning astrology. Look at the charts. Read your charts. You have to read your charts. You can't just go off of what you think you know. You have to go by what you see and by what you can read in the chart. And by reading the chart, this is how I can see what the interaction is going to be between the planets, between Mars and Venus. Now, with that being said, look, Venus retrograde in Aries, let's talk about this. The bottom line is this. Venus in Aries, she's not at her best. She's kind of distressed, just a little bit. She gets really stressy there. She's selfish because it takes a lot of effort to stay beautiful. And because it's such a striking placement, I went through that list of people that had Venus in Aries, and they were like all on the top of the most beautiful people of all time list. Elizabeth Taylor, Marilyn Monroe, folks like that, right? Jennifer Aniston, crazy, right? George Clooney. What a list. It's a nutty list. And it certainly has a lot of effort attached to looking that good for a long time. Now, not everyone is willing to devote themselves to the work and self-care rituals that the people with that placement, that birth placement of Venus in Aries, can endure. So there's a lesson there for all the rest of us, right? When Venus is in Aries, yeah, we're looking good, we're feeling good, right? Yeah, we are. We're feeling that way. Now, those who can understand this and remain dedicated are going to find this an excellent time to explore not just romance as Venus is going retrograde through Aries, but we're also, and then returning, we're also going to the business of art and creativity. We're going to discover more about that. Venus, she has many desires, and so will you. As she goes back, and she goes back through Pisces, and then joins up with Mars, comes back, meets up with Mars for the last time, and then moves forward. And they both are moving forward into uncharted territory for the rest of us, right? It's going to be good. I like this a lot. I've been talking about this for probably a half a year now, and I like this a lot. There's something here It's transformative, and it works on a couple different levels, a couple different planes, and as you'll see. Now, Venus. So your mission is to find ways to satisfy those many desires that Venus has. Just remember, happy Venus, happy life. And here we can see, what is that? Here we can see nothing. Oh, that slide didn't belong in there. Let me get rid of it. Now, you don't belong there. And that is the Venus once again. So we're taking that out. Okay. We know that Venus will be reborn with a new passion ignited by her return to Mars in the water signs. And from the waters, she will rise again. The symbol for 7 degrees Aries, where she's going to go retrograde at, the Sabian symbol for that is very, very interesting. It's a man succeeds expressing himself simultaneously in 2 realms. Above and below. 2 realms, right? Succeeds in expressing himself. Wow. Okay. So, how prescient and appropriate is that, right? The Sabian symbols for the first degrees of Aries, they're all about this individualization, that declaration. Remember, that key phrase of Aries is, I am. We make a declaration. The first house may be ruled by Mars, but it's definitely solar in nature. I am. Make a declaration to yourself. I am. We're going back through it, right? The first house may be ruled by Mars? Yeah. The sun is exalted in Aries, just as the moon is exalted in Venus. The personal planets have an intimate relationship with each other, with the luminaries, and with each other, and that includes Mercury. So, the power of Venus, the power that Venus is going to confer to Mars is going to be an authority of all things in Leo that he may have tripped over last fall, okay? Because Venus is going to give you that watery power, that reborn power, that power in Aries when she moves into it. Just carrying that forward with you into your heart, right? That's what's going to drive you, right? The face that launched 1,000 ships, the motivation for doing the things, what we're going to be going to Leo to accomplish once Mars clears Cancer later on in April. Now, we're going to have a much stronger base. We're going to have stronger beliefs as a result, more abilities because we've been working on them slowly. We haven't been taking up all the airspace and all the oxygen in the room trying to get everything done at once. We've been learning what it is that we have to do and then slowly going forward and doing it, improving it by degrees. And we're going to have a stronger sense of what it is that we are on this earth to accomplish. Nodal stuff, right? Karmic stuff. This is very personal for me. I began learning and testing the coding for daily-astrocat.com, the website, in 2017 during this same retrograde. I kid you not. Started writing out the first code and doing the first entries and everything like that right around my birthday, which is the end of March. The first articles were written in the first week of April just to test my ability as an astrologer. And, because if I was going to launch a website and just test it, I just wanted to make sure that I was not putting nonsense out there. I just wanted to get the website, get it stopped, get it running, put it going, and do all of that, right? It became a labor of love. It became something that I absolutely enjoyed doing because it was just so much fun and creative writing. I started out doing one style, and then I changed another style, and, eventually the astrology became very important. I didn't want to take away from it with my silly stories like I was doing, although my silly stories really illustrated some good points and helped me understand astrology even better because I was able to go through it almost allegorically or metaphorically speaking through cats and planets and talking cats and planets interacting. It was a lot of fun. Now, if I got to doing that, but then, the technical improvements on the website, that was taken up by writing content. So I became a content person. Otherwise I would just be spending my time doing whatever. So I would rather be doing this than doing anything else, because it's just so much fun, and it's so much to think about and so much to write about every single week. Now, just like that, I became an astrologer. All right, I wanted to make sure I understood the subject matter, but bottom line, I wanted to do astrology better, and I've been just working on that week after week after week, just digging down, getting into this stuff, just becoming better at it. And I'm here to help you. If you have an interest in astrology, if you want to become an astrologer, I'm here to help you understand things the way that I started to understand them and the way that I learned them. And I think that this system that I use actually works fairly well. You may notice that I use whole sign houses. There's a reason for that. And the reason for that is that my chart made no sense to me with any other house system. It just didn't, because it was just like, there was a disconnect there. It was like, no, that's not. But when I finally just put my chart in a whole sign house scheme and cast it like that, I was like, well, yes, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it should be. That's exactly where the placement should be. Now, it's not the same like that for everybody, but I'm just saying, for me, that was my eye-opening moment, and that's where I was like, whoa, okay, now this really works. Because before it would be like, I'd look at it and be like, that's not, that just doesn't sound right. But when I finally did it with the whole, I was like, oh, okay, now this is making sense, and now I can make sense of it. So I still use whole sign houses even on my dailies, and most folks don't do that, but it's just simpler, because think about it. There's no dividing lines up in the sky. That doesn't really matter. Now that I have that said, and I really want to just get to the end of this, but I don't want to lose anybody here, because what I got to say is very important, because now what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about, how I'm going to emerge from this, just like I did 8 years ago, right? I came out of it an astrologer. A better astrologer? Maybe. More popular? Hopefully. Help me out here, okay? There I go. There, we're at the end. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. We are at the end. If you're here with me, thank you. I appreciate it. Look, take the time to like this video and subscribe. And remember, the intentions set are intentions well met. I used to start my weeklies with that all the time. Make Daily AstroCat part of your daily routine. Seriously, I put out this stuff every single week, right? Every single day. There's a new video up. There's a new blog page that's up. A new everything. I like comments. Please comment. Please like. Please share. I really appreciate it. The podcast is available on YouTube and at daily-astrocat.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much. I love and appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for watching. Happy astrocatting.